Press a circle, then some eyes, draw on some limbs, and you get the easiest draw something picture ever. But wait, this review isn't about draw something. It's about a game that features possibly one of the cutest heroes of all time, Kirby. I mean, what's not to love? He's round, he's pink, and he eats anything that gets in his way. And as an extra bonus, he even gains extra abilities that way. How could you go wrong? Now, although Kirby has a few games on the Game Boy, this review is focusing more on its NES adventure, aptly titled Kirby's Adventure. I played the shit out of this game as a kid. I remember getting it for my birthday when I was like 9 or 10. Yeah, I geeked out then, and remember being super excited because I remember seeing a commercial for it on TV and doing the normal thing kids do. Mom, I want that! Well, I got it, and I loved it. You play as Kirby, obviously. Kirby lives in a place called Dream World, and every night the citizens have kick-ass dreams. One day, they didn't though. Kirby goes out and finds King DDD, evil villain and king of who knows what. He broke apart the Star Rod and gave a few pieces to each of his friends. The Star Rod is what causes the inhabitants of Dream World to dream. So yeah, you start a game, enter a world map, and choose what stage you want to play. You only get one to start with, but as you play, you unlock the next stage. You can revisit any previous stage at any time, in case you missed any secrets and are going for 100% completion. Some stages contain secret switches that reveal things such as minigames, museums, or even an arena. Getting 100% completion unlocks an extra mode, which is basically a harder difficulty. You get only 2 lives to start with, as opposed to the regular 4, and you only get a maximum of 3 health points, instead of 6. That's really the only difference, so it's not too terribly difficult, but it does add extra challenge to the game, which is honestly needed. There's lives all over the place, and you can visit the arena at any time to refill your health, provided you win the battle, of course. The minigames, if you complete them successfully, give you a maximum of 4 extra lives in one shot. You can also revisit easier levels containing 1-ups for really simple extra lives. I was trying to see how many I could rack up in one full playthrough, but my sounds glitched on me a bit, so I had to reset the game. Yeah, that's right, I was trying to finish the game in one sitting. Believe me, with the amount of hours I put in this game over the years, it's not hard. In case you find the NES's control pad a little bit too difficult to understand, there's an easy to learn tutorial right in the beginning of the game if you don't press start. But Kirby's got a lot of techniques at his disposal. If you press up, Kirby will inhale and hold his breath, essentially making him like a balloon, although he won't float to the top of the screen unless you keep pressing up. If you press B in this mode, he'll exhale, doing small damage to some creatures, but killing most of them. Pressing down A slides, which is another basic attack. The real meat of your abilities comes from Kirby's appetite. Pressing B without any abilities causes Kirby to attempt to suck in an enemy in his giant maw. If you press down while chewing on an enemy, you inherit any abilities that enemy has. Many enemies don't give you anything, but most of the baddies out there contain an ability. These range from the very basic sword and hammer, to a fireball, needles, and even an attack where Kirby turns into a ball. Some skills are obviously more useful than others. Using the hammer or stone attacks allows you to destroy otherwise unbreakable blocks or pounding pegs for secrets or power-ups. One skill is actually purposely useless. It's a sleep skill, because when you inhale one of the tired little guys wearing sleep caps, but when you use sleep, it's just so cute. Hey! Kirby! Wake up! The best ability in the game is the UFO ability, but it's very rare and only lasts until the end of the stage. All other abilities carry over from level to level, but I guess the developers figured that UFO would make the game just way too easy. So when you enter the stage exit, you lose the ability and go back to your normal self. All in all, there's about 30 or so skills to get. Another feature is if you manage to snag 2 enemies with abilities in one gulp, you get a mix. This happens even if you grab 2 of the same monster. Pressing down when you have a mix causes you to get a seemingly random ability. However, it's actually set in stone what you're going to get if you just let the mix finish. For example, mix spark with anything to get hammer. 2 fireballs will always cause needle. Mix a spark and a fireball, and you'll get a hammer. I'm not sure how they figured out the primary mix ingredient, but it's a pretty neat feature. But say you really want to go for random. Like you grab 2 fireballs, but you don't want needle. What do? Just stop the mix by pressing A while it's cycling, and you'll get a random ability. This includes UFO, so if you're lucky enough to stop it there, you'll be happy. It's an interesting way to get abilities like throw and backdrop early, when normally you won't see these monsters until later in the game. As you're traveling through Dream World, in between each stage you have a chance to enter bonus rooms. Once again, these include minigames, museums, and the arena. At the end, before each boss, you can also access Warp Star, which allows you to travel between different worlds. And before I forget, the little scenes that play out before each world are just funny. They just show the small bits of humor in the game, and just keep portraying the lighthearted feel to it. But anyway, back to those extra rooms. The arena is just that. You fight one of the dozen or so mini-bosses that you'll find in certain areas. Kill them, and you get a chance to gain its ability, of which they're usually really good, and also drop a tomato-looking power-up, which restores your health to maximum. These are also featured in the regular levels, along with the pep drinks, which only restore 2 points of health. In extra mode, both of these health power-ups will max out your life, since you only get 3 points. Anyway, I need to stop getting off track. Hey, Kirby! Hey! Stop falling asleep! Wake up! The museum is a place for you to get a free ability. If you accidentally destroy the creature in there, you can just re-enter the museum. The enemy is also docile, and won't attack you. It's just there as a free ability. Finally, we move on to the minigames. There's 3 available, and if you complete the game, you get a chance to play any of them at will, complete with a difficulty selection. The first minigame you find, right after the first stage, is the crane game. If you don't know how these work, just go to a Chuck E. Cheese or something. Hell, every Walmart I've ever been in contains one too. There's gotta be one within 10 miles of you, so start searching. Anyway, you press A to move the crane arm, and release A to stop it. When it stops, it attempts to latch onto one of the Kirby dolls and pulls it to the hole. If you snag a large one, it's 2 extra lives, and the small one is 1. If you don't grab it perfectly, the doll has a chance of falling off the crane. You have 2 attempts at this. The second minigame is some sort of egg swallowing challenge. Kirby stands in a boxing ring, while King DDD throws eggs and bombs at Kirby. Holding A opens Kirby's mouth. You want to eat the eggs, and not the bombs. Eat a bomb, and the game is over. You get lives if you manage to eat the majority of the eggs before you blow up. Get all of the eggs, and you get 3 lives, along with Kirby spitting out the baby chicks while King DDD cries at his failure. The final minigame, and in my opinion the hardest, is the quick draw. It's just as it sounds. Kirby, complete with a cowboy hat, attempts to outshoot his opponents in a western-style showdown. You only have 1 chance. If you press A before you're told to draw, you'll foul. 2 fouls will disqualify you. All in all, these minigames are a blast to play and are a fun distraction to the rest of the game. The game isn't all just action and platforming though. There are a few puzzles thrown around just to keep you thinking. These often come in forms where you'll have to light a fuse and run to a cannon to shoot out of it. Although these are always to get to secret areas and not necessary for stage completion. You'll also find hidden doorways to other secret areas. There's a lot of stuff to find, but the game isn't too unforgiving, as the door to each stage will stay lit unless you found all the unlockable secrets in that stage. So you'll easily be able to figure out where you're missing a few things. And when you're a kid without the internet, you don't have any ideas on how to find all of them, so it was up to good old-fashioned trial and error mixed with exploration. One of the hardest puzzles is this one in one of the final stages. You'll encounter a bunch of enemies containing Crash, an ability that destroys everything on the screen, but you only have 1 of it. It also has the ability to light fuses on fire. You know, the whole explosion has a fire property to it. The catch is that the fuse isn't until the end of the stage, and there's a bunch of hazards in the way, including a mini-boss. You need to skillfully hit select to eject Crash, grab one of its minions, spit it back out without hitting the bouncing skill star, suck Crash up before it disappears, hit down to make it your current ability again, and repeat this a few times until the mini-boss dies. There's other enemies in the way too, so you really need to take your time and be very patient. Once you get to the cannon, what are you rewarded with? 3 extra lives. Now that wasn't so bad, was it? Another area that requires a specific skill to minimize damage is here. We are tasking with going down several platforms that are littered with spikes. Fortunately, the game gives you a parasol power-up right in the beginning if you'd like to use it, which causes you to float to the ground. If done right, you can maneuver this entire room without taking 1 bit of damage, but it isn't easy. Almost in an act of kindness, there's health at the bottom. So at the end of each level, after completing each stage, stocking up on lives with the minigames, and possibly gaining an ability at the museum or arena, you get to fight a boss. The first few bosses are pretty pathetic, but they do start to get a little bit more difficult. The hardest one, in my opinion, isn't even King DDD, and he's not even the final boss. It's the guy with the sword. If I recall correctly, his name was Meta Knight. You're forced to grab the sword, and then you challenge him to a duel. He'll block your attacks and even gets a few abilities you aren't able to perform. But with enough tenacity, he'll fall when you shear his mask in half. Pretty cool if you ask me. One of the biggest things about this game is just the fluidness of it. And this isn't just limited to Kirby's animations, but includes the enemies as well. Everything is just really, really smooth, no matter what ability you have equipped. The only things that are really missing is animated backgrounds. but they really aren't that necessary because the game is colorful and looks perfectly fine with the solid yet detailed landscapes. The final 2 boss battles really showcase the game's graphics. After you fight King DDD, Kirby assembles the Dream Rod back together and walks to the Dream Fountain, although the King of Nothingness warns you not to. Kirby swats him away, which is actually kind of funny, because Kirby looks pissed. They sit there and watch for a few seconds, then some sort of ball comes out of the fountain, knocking the Dream Rod out. They freak out, which, again, is actually pretty funny, before King DDD regains his senses and sucks up both Kirby and the Dream Rod and spits them both in the sky, causing an epic chase. Kirby can float around, almost like a horizontal shooter, using the Dream Rod to fire star-shaped projectiles. This is the only time stage in the game. Gravity does exist, so if Kirby is too slow when he hits the ground, you'll lose a life and have to start the battle over. After defeating this giant ball, you end up following the ball. It turns out to literally be a really, really bad nightmare. This nightmare will attack Kirby, and the music that ensues is just epic. The nightmare is invulnerable except for that glittery part below his waist. No comment. Once you get his patterns down, he's actually pretty simple. And for the record, this dude just looks evil. And the fact that you thought that King DDD was behind everything makes this a very interesting plot twist. After you defeat the nightmare, Kirby throws the rod back into the fountain, and the Dream World goes back to normal. You then unlock the bonus games. If you want a real challenge, try boss mode. You have to fight every boss in the game in a row. 1 life, 6 health points, no health power-ups. Can you do it? I've only done it once or twice. Usually the Meta Knight just kicks my ass. That pretty much wraps up this review. Everything about this game is fun. Good, colorful visuals, a great matching soundtrack, tons of weapons, extra features, good save system, easy controls. It's all a perfect, tight little package. If you have the ability, seriously play this game. It's a bit on the simple side, but it's still a fun little game to keep you occupied for a while. Final score? Perfect 10 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.